What's going on?
Greetings, gang. I hope you're all doing good. I can't believe it's that time already. I am in the mood to talk some rubbish. I hope you guys will indulge me over the next 60 minutes because I got a lot of stuff that I want to talk about. So, regardless of whether this is your first time here or if you're a returning listener, welcome to Zoo's Reviews, the podcast where we discuss the latest and greatest in music, movies, and media. If I find it cool or interesting or I feel like I need to talk about it, then I'm going to talk about it. Simple as that. Every single month, listeners are invited to submit their own music for review on the show. All you have to do is send your links to me on Instagram at official_Zurra. If you don't make music, but you want to contribute to the show in some way, shape, or form, you're more than welcome to send through some quick fire topics which we'll tackle at the end of each episode. Now, the best way for you to contribute to the show is to join my Instagram channel, The Zoo Crew. I prioritise all the listener topics that come through that specific channel. And I've been sent a lot. I've been sent a lot through that channel. I've been sent a lot privately as well. But if you join The Zoo Crew, then you are basically guaranteed to get your topics addressed on the show. So make sure you do just that. I post the channel every single day, pretty much on my Instagram story. So all you got to do is press the button and get involved. There's some lovely people in there. It's a wicked little community that we're building. And I'd love you to be a part of it as well. So yeah, that's a bit of housekeeping out the way early doors. So yeah, what is new? What is new in my life? Well, my 30th birthday wasn't too long ago and I got a little bit too drunk. I got to be honest. So the plan was my fiance, she put an absolute ball together. She put together this, what was originally supposed to be a surprise party, but she's notoriously bad at keeping secrets. So she told me about it. She told me what her plans were for it. And the kind of whole surprise element ended up kind of like whittling away. But it was awesome. I had an amazing time. It was great to see my friends and family there. The soon-to-be in-laws having a wicked time mingling with my friends. And yeah, it was awesome. So the plan was always to have the party, have a few drinks, and then go out after. I didn't make it out after because I just felt like I had a consistent stream of beer just being placed in my hands. And, I wasn't complaining at all, but it got to a point where I was like, I'm going to have to call it a night. I know that this is going to suck, not just tomorrow, but probably the next day and the day after as well. So I did what any sensible newly turned 30-year-old would do, and I knocked it on the head. I went home and I got a good night's sleep. Oh my days, I'm really starting to act my age. This is crazy, but I have no doubt that I'll bounce back soon. So yeah, 30 years old, feeling it. Already feeling it. 2-day hangovers. What the hell is that all about? Monday morning came round and I was just like, this is like the worst I've felt in a very, very long time. Because I was doing dry Feb, me and my fiance, we weren't drinking for a while. So when we did finally kind of, let the, what's the term for it? When we finally kind of let loose, when we finally opened the floodgates, it was havoc, honestly. Like, we actually went for a food tasting for our wedding, and it came with, we had to do some wine tasting and stuff like that as well. So we had a glass of wine right at the end of February, and we were like, we didn't quite make it to the end of Feb without having a drink, but I suppose this is part of the process. We're getting married. We need to know what wine we're going to have on the day. And I got about 3 sips into this glass of red, and I looked at the missus and I was just like, Jess, I don't know which one of us is going to drive home, but I really hope it's not me. That went straight to my head. I couldn't believe it. Anyway, I did drive home. I was a responsible driver. I called it a day after one glass. Although someone had to test the rest of the wine, so my fiance luckily stepped up, and I have no idea what the rest of them taste like, but I'm sure I'm going to find out on my wedding day. So yeah, there we go. So yeah, 2-day hangovers, that's something that I've recently had to experience, which is cool. And every Monday as well, I train jiu-jitsu, so I turned up to that session still feeling like absolute shit in the evening. And I was just like, this is probably going to be either the best thing for me or the worst thing for me. And it turned out to be all right. I sweated all the crap out my system and I was like, okay, good to go. That Tuesday morning, I felt fresh as a daisy. So there we go. I'll stop rambling about my birthday now because as I mentioned in the last podcast, which by the way, if you haven't listened to that, go and listen to that. You've missed a couple of episodes. This is episode 3. Episode 1, we were kind of finding our feet a little bit. We found a bit of a groove in episode 2. And now episode 3, I'm still kind of making it up as I go along. But, ready to talk some more shit. So there we go. But basically, in the last podcast, I said that I found something on the internet where someone had basically said, okay, you're not celebrating turning 30, you're celebrating living for 30 years. So yeah, there we go. 31, 30. I don't know how old I am. All I know is that the hangovers hurt. So so yeah, let's raise a glass to that. Cool. So before we get into the first main topic of the day, I just want to let you guys know about my upcoming single. I know it does feel like we were just talking about a new single, which was titled Non-Stop, which has been out for a few weeks now. That's been performing really well, but now it's time to start gearing up for the next one. Now, by the time this comes out, it will actually be dropping at midnight. So I drop these podcasts on a Thursday, and my new single will be dropping on a Friday. So what you can do is, if you're listening right now and you haven't done it already, you can head over to my Instagram bio or Instagram story. There will be a link to pre-save Need to Know, which is coming out on Vivifier, a label that I've actually committed a few records to this year. So I'm really excited to be working with them again. I worked with them on The Other Side, which came out in October 2024. And it was wicked to see, the reaction that got. It got a lot of radio spin on BBC Introducing. Yeah, really cool DJ support as well. It was a bit of a kind of MK, Sunny Federa vibe, piano with like a driving bass underneath it. So different to my usual style, but I'm all about trying new things and seeing what sticks when it comes to creating. So it was a record that I was really proud of. Vivifier were really happy with it, and then yeah. So this is the first of 3 tunes I've got coming out with Vivifier in 2025. It's titled Need to Know. Now, I'm going to go ahead and do... This is probably promotion suicide for an upcoming single, but I'm going to let you guys know ahead of time, just because I feel like it's important that you have... we have full transparency, that this is like an open and honest conversation. This track, Need to Know, I love it, right? I absolutely love it. I kind of modelled it around a few different tracks. The vocal, I've heard it in like 7 or 8 different tracks since I put this version together, right? So it is a vocal that I got on Loop Cloud, right? So, put your crosses up, Loop Cloud and Splice being the devil, just because there's, easily accessible acapellas and wicked vocals on there. Guys, I get it. I try my best to avoid it, but sometimes the vocals on there are just too good. And when I was making this track, I hadn't heard any tunes using this vocal. So I was like, okay, cool. I think the coast might be clear. I think I might be able to get away with using this one, because it's quite a full-bodied a cappella as well. It has a really good hook section with loads of cool ad-libs, and then it has a kind of a verse, I suppose. But yeah, since signing the dotted line with Vivifier, I have heard... yeah, a lot of tunes using this vocal, and now I'm just throwing this one in the mix to confuse people. Now, it hasn't put me off my version, because I think my version is original. All things, taken into consideration with the use of the vocal and stuff. No version of the song using this vocal out there at the minute sounds anything like mine. Again, I wanted to kind of go with almost like is it Weiss or Vice? I don't really know. Tool Room guy makes wicked tracks using piano. I wanted to go with a kind of piano-y, groovy vibe to it, and I think that I managed to achieve that, and Vivifier really enjoyed it. So I was really, really happy with the feedback I got from them. I had to change it a few times just to get it to the final version, but I'm really happy with how it sounds now, and I can't wait for people to hear it, even if the vocal is gonna ring a few bells in people's minds, like, oh, I've heard that before. You probably have heard it before. I can't remember exactly who it is that's released it with this vocal recently, but I think it came out on Positiva, which is a very big label, and I know Majestic's done like a speed garage remix of it using that vocal, and so yeah, I got beat to the punch, basically. So I suppose there's a lesson to be taken here. Splice vocals, Loop Cloud vocals, it's really hard to get ahead of the game. When you find a good sample to use, it's difficult to make that call as to, okay, is this going to be the only version of this song out there using this vocal? Or are there already going to be a bunch of other songs that use it? Chances are it's going to be the latter. And if they're not released, then they're definitely lined up for release. So yeah, that's the first time that this has happened in my career. But I wanted to be open and honest with you guys ahead of time. Like, if you hear the song and you recognize the vocal, you probably heard it on like 6 or 7 other tracks. And if I had heard those tracks before committing this song to a label, I probably would have changed the vocal and found something different. But I think it really suits the vibe that I've gone for. So, Need to Know, that is dropping on the 21st of March on Vivifier. I really hope that you guys can kind of look past the splice vocal thing or the loop cloud vocal thing, because I'm really proud of the record, and I really do think that you guys are going to get something new and interesting from this one that you haven't heard from me in particular before, even if the vocal has been used by a million other people. But there we go, such is life. Need to Know, dropping at midnight if you're listening to it on the premiere, which drops on YouTube every other Thursday. We're doing this fortnightly at the moment, so yeah, you're probably going to be listening to this on the 20th of March, if you're listening live. So yeah, it's out at midnight. But if you're listening back, then it's already out. Go and check it out. Need to Know by Zurra, out on Vivifier Records. Cool, so now we've got that out of the way, let's jump into our first main topic. So, as you know, I always reach out to people on my Instagram, on my socials, and just see what they want me to talk about on the pod. And I got an overwhelming number of people get in contact asking to hear about my experience as part of the Kiss Chosen One competition in 2024. So they've done it again this year in 2025. My good friend Dan James, he was in the final three, which I'm really, really, super happy for him because he's such a talented DJ. James Bluck, who I was in the final with last year, he won it this year. And Alta Soph, who I'm going to be on a few lineups with in 2025, she was in the final this year as well. So I wanted to kind of just do a little recap of my experience, talk you through it step by step, what my overall thoughts were, and yeah, just for anyone who was interested, yeah, this is a bit of a peek behind the curtain. So in 2024, well, it would have been the end of 2023 actually. I saw that they were advertising the Kiss Chosen One competition for 2024. And I was very excited to get stuck in. I wasted no time getting some tunes together and going and recording a mix. Now, admittedly, I didn't know what I was applying for. I didn't know what I was throwing myself in the mix for, because Kiss used to do the Chosen One competition quite a while ago, and it used to be to win the opportunity to present your own show on Kiss. And I'm pretty sure people like Charlie T, if I'm not mistaken, came through from that competition. And that's what I remember. That's what I thought I was applying for. I thought, okay, cool. I've always had a passion for radio. I know I've got the goods when it comes to DJing. Let's see how this goes. Chuck my thing in the mix, and it wasn't until after I submitted my submission that I kind of looked at what the prizes were, and I was like, oh, okay. Which I was still absolutely over the moon with. Don't get me wrong. Like, the opportunity to perform for Kiss at O Beach in Ibiza, that would have been awesome. 2024 wasn't my year. 2025 wasn't my year either. But I'm going to make that O Beach performance happen at some point. Absolutely. Like, there's absolutely no way I'm going to let that slip through my fingers. That is going to happen at some point. So yeah, you obviously had that. You had the opportunity to jump on Majestic's show with a guest mix, which I ended up doing anyway, which was pretty cool. And yeah, there was a bunch of other things as well. So when I kind of looked at the prizes and what I was kind of throwing myself in for, I was like, okay, cool. This is sick. This is sick. But initially, I had no idea really what I was chucking myself in for. A few months went by and I was kind of like, to be honest, I think I'd kind of forgotten about it, to be fair. I was just kind of, plodding along. At this point, I'd literally just gone full time with DJing. So I was struggling to kind of navigate the January window where there's no gigs at all. That was new to me. So I was just like, oh my God, this is crazy quiet. Like, I can't get a gig to save my life at the moment. And then slowly things started kind of opening up towards the end of January, start of February. Still a little bit quiet, People have got no money off the back of Christmas, so no one's really going out. So clubs, bars, whatever, venues, they just don't have they don't need a DJ in because they don't have the clientele in. So that was why, but I was still trying to navigate that world of, okay, now I'm not in a 9 to 5 anymore. I'm doing this full-time, self-employed, and I currently don't have an income stream. So I was busy throwing myself into because I don't have an agent, I don't have a manager. I was just trying to manage this whole thing on my own and get myself some gigs so that I could get some money coming in. And then I received an email from Eden at Bauer. Shouts to Eden, she was amazing, by the way. Saying that I'd got through to the final of the Kiss Chosen one. And I was like, nah, you're pulling my leg. In fact, my first thought was I saw the email and I thought, here it is. They're letting people down gently. That's very kind of them. And then, I saw that I was in the final and I was like, okay, this is awesome. I don't know what this means now. But carried on reading the email. They kind of drew out the next few steps. So it involved a day of shooting some content in London, which I was very excited about. So I think that actually, the turnaround for that was quite quick. I think that this was around the end of January and I think we were shooting a couple of weeks after. So like mid-Feb. And we went there and I got the chance to meet the other two finalists, who were Sam Sachs and James Bluck. Sam Sachs, what an absolute sweetheart. She is a little superstar. If you haven't had the chance to go and see Sam Sachs live, go and do it. Like, what an act that is. If you don't know who Sam Sachs is, let me try and explain her act. She's a wicked DJ. She plays house. She plays harder stuff as well. And she also plays saxophone over the top at the same time. I can't even fathom the level of concentration it must take to do that. But she gets serious cool points from me, like seriously awesome act. And James Bluck, who won it this year, was also competing last year as well. Wicked DJ. But yeah, I'll leave it at that. But it was nice to meet them both. I bumped into James initially at the hotel that we were all staying at. Had a little chat with him. It was nice to get to know him before we started shooting and stuff like that. Turned up to Tile Yard, and then we were basically interviewed in front of a bunch of people on camera. Asked a load of questions. We were actually prepped with the questions ahead of time as well. So, we didn't go in cold. I had a couple answers that I was just like, I'm just going to rehearse my lines basically because I've got a really good answer for this. And on the day when there's people watching and the lights are on, you kind of fumble your words a little bit. So, it's not all perfect. It's not all perfect. But yeah, it was really cool. I had to be interviewed last, so I was listening to Sam's interview, I was listening to James's interview, and then I had to do the last one. So yeah, it was a little bit reality TV. A little bit. There was a couple of times where our answers were kind of changed to suit the competition, which, I have no problem letting you guys know about because that's the reality of, whatever this is, the entertainment industry. It's not always as you see it. So my answers were changed a couple of times. So were James's. So were Sam's. That was just what the director had in mind for those particular questions. So after we answered our questions, which we had a lot of fun doing. We were all having a good old giggle about it. There are a few questions which obviously didn't make the cut. Because I think we got a deck of 20 questions to prep for. Which then got cut down to like a 60-second supercut for social media. So only 3 questions were actually used in the edit. And I think that, there was probably a few of my answers in there that probably weren't safe for social media anyway. So it's probably best they didn't see the light of day. But after that, we basically had to go and do a little bit of extra filming individually. And then as a group, we had some photos taken of the 3 finalists. We basically had to pretend to DJ. So they had a set of decks, but they didn't have a sound system to hook it up to. So we were just putting our USB sticks in, dancing to no music in the background. I tried to get a bit of crowd participation going because there were a lot of people, watching us while we were being filmed. I didn't want it to be completely silent and me just waving my arms around. So I tried getting some people to beatbox. I was just like, come on, let's at least, if we can't get music on the PA, let's at least get some kind of vibe going in here. And, people were clapping along, people were singing, having a boogie. So that was good fun. Had a few photos with Sam and James. And then we went our separate ways. The next stage of the competition, we had to record some mixes. So we had the mix block, which was with Jordan and Perry on their morning show. So we all had an opportunity on consecutive days to do the morning mix block, which is like a 15-minute mix or so of, Kiss bangers, kind of weekend weapons and stuff like that. So there was a good blend of underground and commercial tunes to choose from because you do have to choose from their list. That's just the way it works with radio. But luckily luckily for me, all the tunes on that list were right up my street, so I had no problem putting a mix together. So that was a really cool experience. We had an interview with Jordan and Perry as well. Funny story, Jordan and Perry, I met them years and years and years ago. I believe it was a shopping centre in Milton Keynes before Diversity blew up. I remember just being in a shopping centre watching them dance, and I'd never seen dancing like that. I'd never seen a big dance, group perform the way they had. Obviously, my family are all dancers and stuff like that, so I think that they may have had a contribution to that show as well. But that was the first time I'd seen Diversity, first time I'd seen Jordan Perry, outside the context of what they do with Kiss. So that was cool. Had a chat with them. They were really lovely, absolutely lovely. The interview went out, and I thought, damn, I sound awful. I sound awful on the airways. And now that I've started recording the podcast and the radio show and stuff like that, when I listen back to my voice, I'm like, damn, this is what I sound like to other people, isn't it? Like, can be quite scary. Can be quite scary. But that was obviously aired to lots and lots of people. So I was like, oh, damn, is that really what I sound like? But anyway, you can't worry about things like that too much. So once the interview and the mix block went out, it was then all eyes on the final. So that was held at Lightbox in Vauxhall in London. So again, put up in a hotel for the night, which was wicked. Our task was basically to put together a 10-minute mini mix, and basically just, flaunt it. If we got it, flaunt it. Just show off what we can do within that 10 minutes. Now, obviously, Sam's was very heavily focused around big club bangers with saxophone and stuff like that. So she absolutely killed it. James is obviously a turntablist, very good at scratching. So his was very heavily leaned towards scratching. And I do a lot of live mashups and, layering and stuff like that in my sets. So I was full deck mixing, just kind of mixing in as many acapellas as I can, live mashups. And yeah, it went pretty well. I had to go first, so that was a bit nerve-wracking. It didn't really feel like my usual environment. Like when I'm performing as a DJ, I like interacting with people. And I like the kind of the connection that you can make with people on the dance floor as well. It didn't really feel like that at Lightbox because there was like cameras and there were people there. Basically everyone had their phone out filming. No one was really there having a boogie. Everyone was just filming content. And yeah, it was nerve-wracking, but I had a wicked time. Met some really cool people that night as well. All of our performances were being judged by Mark Knight, Eats Everything, Shosh, Eddie Craig, DJ SKT. Have I missed anyone out? Majestic, of course. So like there was like a star-studded, cast of judges just watching us do our thing. And Eats Everything. I mean, dude, that guy and Mark Knight, to be fair. Actually, no, all of them. But for me, I've always loved Eats Everything. Like he's in my top 3. And he's a Bristol boy as well, so even better. I got some really, really nice comments from him. And that blew me away. So even though I didn't win the competition, spoiler alert by the way, Sam Sachs won. But yeah, even though I didn't win, I came away feeling like, okay, this is cool. This is cool. I got to meet some of my heroes. I got some really nice comments. I got some good constructive feedback as well to take on board for future. But yeah, it was a really good experience all round. Had some friends, had my mum come and support me as well. So that was really nice. Did a bit of networking, went home. I think I ate sushi in bed with a can of beer, and that was me. That was me done. So yeah, the overall experience was really, really cool. We did really feel like celebrity rock stars, for the whole thing. But yeah, at the same time, it almost kind of felt a little bit super produced and manufactured, which I think, comes with the territory. So overall, I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5 zoos. It was a wicked experience, a wicked experience. Off the back of that, it was cool to say, okay, I made the final 3 out of, however many applicants there were. I had a conversation with Shosh, actually, who was one of the judges, and she said we received, tens of thousands of applicants, so for you to get into the final 3, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, that's awesome. That really, that really is cool. And I was looking at some of the other entrants as well, because loads of people uploaded it to YouTube and stuff like that. Damn, the UK is just stacked with talent, absolutely stacked with talent. So to make it in the top 3 that year was super humbling, and yeah, just really validating. it made me feel like, okay, cool. I'm putting the work in. I'm finally getting a bit of recognition for it, and yeah, so it was cool. 4 out of 5 zoos for the Kiss Chosen One competition. Again, I'm going to be getting one of the finalists from this year onto the pod at some point. So you'll be able to hear what the 2025 experience was like as well. But that's a story for another time. Anyway, 4 out of 5 zoos, Kiss Chosen One 2024. Now, we're going to get into the music reviews. So, thank you very much to everyone who submits music. Again, like I've said on the last 2 episodes, we get so many submissions. Like, I cannot even begin to describe how fat my inbox is with all these submissions. So please keep them coming. Keep them coming. And if you have sent music and we haven't reviewed it yet, don't worry, we will get round to it. This week, we have got 3 fresh submissions that we're going to go for. And the first one is from AK Lion. Now, this one was actually sent to me on Discord. So I'm part of a couple of different crews on Discord. I don't really know what they're called. I don't know what you call it. Is it a group chat? I don't know. Anyway, I'm still trying to figure out Discord. But AK Lion sent this track across. It's called The Underground. And yeah, let's jump straight into it. Oh, hello. This is giving me a kind of a David Guetta meets the 80s vibe so far. Do like that saw. Sounds really cool.
Round and round in the underground, you were lost, now you're found. Round and 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 round and.
Here we go, nice big build up. Vocals cool as well.
Round and round in the underground, you were lost, now you're found.
Cool. Nice. I'd be interested to know what genre or like what classification you put this in.
Round and round in the underground.
Because I'm not too sure what I would call this. But we'll get into that in a sec.
The underground.
The arrangement's good. The arrangement is definitely very good. There's a clear distinction between sections which can sometimes get lost in dance music, but yeah, the arrangement's very, very good.
Round and round in the underground, you were lost, now you're found. Round and 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 round and.
Another build up, let's go.
Round and round in the underground, you were lost, now you're found.
There's some cool stuff in here, AK Lion. Some really cool stuff.
The underground.
I would actually love to hear who your influences are as well, because there's a lot of different flavours going on in here. I tell you what, I'm gonna just start bringing it to a close. Oh, I tell you what, there's not long left. Let's hear it out.
The underground. The underground.
Okay, cool. So let's get into it. AK Lion with The Underground there. Thank you for sending that in. Yeah, a lot of different flavours going on in here. So you've obviously got the big synth, you've got the big leads, kind of carrying most of the track. That is pretty persistent from start to finish. I'd like to hear some sections where that's not in there, you know, or maybe filter it or do something for a bit of variation. Because at the moment, it's kind of one note. It's kind of not going anywhere. like I said though, the arrangement's good. You know, there's a clear distinction between sections, and I think you could make that even clearer to the audience, to the listener, if you did something different with the lead. I think that the lead is in too much of the track. Basically, it's important to have distinctive features, and things that are going to help people identify your track. But I think that that lead is in there for way too long, way too long. I It's really hard. It's really hard to, because I don't really know what genre I would call this. So AK Lion, please, once this goes out, please let me know what box you would put this in. Because at the moment I can't put it in a box, which is actually a good thing, because it's original. It's not really tech house. It's not really EDM. It's not really. It's just kind of its own thing. Maybe electro house. I'm not too sure. So that in itself is really cool, that you can't put it in a box. But I'd love to know who you're listening to, who your influences are, and stuff like that. So yeah, I think there's some work to do here, especially in the variation, because it's just stays at one level for very long. Throughout. So for me, it's not overly interesting. It's not intriguing enough to keep me listening, right? I think if I heard this in a club, I would be expecting the DJ to switch it up quite quickly. I don't mean that in a disrespectful way, but like it's because that lead is so prominent for so long. It just, for me, I want to hear it go somewhere, and that's what it's lacking at the moment. It's a bit of direction. The arrangement's fine, but it lacks direction. Because if you're going to start with that lead from the off, then maybe introduce something different after that, or work your way up to that lead, or filter the lead in so that it's like kind of it sounds like it's underwater, and then eventually you get to the hook after that big build up. Build up was awesome, by the way, great tension. But yeah, it didn't have the payoff. It didn't have the payoff I was hoping for. It's also super distorted. At least it was when I was listening in headphones. I'll have to check it out on another kind of audio device as well. But yes, a lot of distortion. I don't know if this is mixed or mastered or anything like that. But yeah, there's a lot of distortion going on. But I think that this could be the start of something really, really cool and unique. So I'm going to give it 2.5 out of 5 zoos. I'm going to give it 2.5 zoos because I think that this is like 50% of a great idea at the moment. I think that it needs a lot more variation. I think that the actual mix needs a lot of cleaning up to tidy up the distortion. And it just needs an overall direction. It needs to have something, it needs to have a destination that we can kind of keep revisiting in those drop sections. And also because the build-up's great, it just doesn't have the payoff at the moment, at least not for me. So yeah, a bit of direction, a little bit of tidying up on the technical side of things, which that's something that if it's not within your ability at the moment, that will come. It took me years to get the technical side of things right. Didn't know what sidechain compression was. Didn't even know that you were supposed to mix music down for like the first 3 or 4 years that I was making music. So so this is awesome. This is an awesome start. But again, I think it's half a great idea at the moment. So 2.5 out of 5 zoos, AK Lion. That one was called The Underground. Thank you so much for sending it in, dude. Now, we're going to move into the next one, which is actually a remix from GemNEye of a tune called Headphone Silence. It doesn't have the original artist's name there, but Headphone Silence, the GemNEye remix. Let's get into it. Okay, cool. I've got a feeling this is going to be proper techie, proper techno. Drums sound great, by the way. Drums sound really cool. Atmospherics are really nice as well. Those vocal stabs, sweeps, effects. spooky. Very haunting. Yeah, this is mean. This is nasty. I like this. I'd love to hear the original just so I can listen to the two side by side. Okay, cool. I can hear some cool arpeggiation going on in the background. This is exactly what I mean by variation as well, for those who are listening, when you hear me talking about variation. Introducing different elements, so there's a natural progression to the instrumental. Let this second drop come in and then fade it out. I'm just conscious this is a lot longer than the other two submissions by the looks of it, but this is awesome. Proper old school ravey vibes. Love the subtlety of the arpeggiator as well. Damn, there's so much more of this track to go. I really don't want to stop listening, but I am going to have to start bringing it down. Okay, yeah, this seems like a good time to stop it. GemNEye, that was awesome. I really enjoyed that. Yeah, really hard to kind of, like I said, it's hard for me to judge this without knowing the original. It didn't have the original artist's name in the audio file, and it doesn't look like it's got it on the link that you sent me either. Headphone silence. I'm gonna have to go away and do some homework there. But really, really love what you've done with this. It is awesome. Lots of variation, very progressive. Yeah, like I was kind of talking over the track. There's a lot of different things that pop up. Some cool effects, some vocal stabs, some arps. You know, it's just nice to hear a track that is constantly evolving throughout. The vocal I thought was awesome, but obviously that's from the original. But I like how it's used sparingly here. It's haunting, really fits the kind of ravey aesthetic that you're going for. Yeah, I was really, really impressed with this, mate. Really, really impressed with it. I suppose it is techno, right? I'd call it techno anyway, but again, it's kind of its own thing, which I really like, and this is why I love receiving submissions from people who aren't necessarily like super established. You know, you hear so many original ideas and so many cool things, and yeah, this is a really, really cool piece of work, mate. If I had to be super, super critical, I think it's a little bit muddy, but I think that's because there's so many things going on in there. But it's not like you've oversaturated the track with ideas. I think that there's the right amount of ideas in there, but do they all fit in the frequency spectrum? Do they all fit in the stereo field? Not quite as well as it could. So I think that, you know, you could do with some additional panning, just to kind of make things fit in different spots. Yeah, a little bit of EQing just to make sure things aren't clashing, because it's not that they're clashing, but just from listening then, it did sound like there were some things that were trying to occupy the same space. But that's the technical side of things. Creatively, I really love what you've done, and I think that counts for more than the technical side of things. At least in my opinion, anyway. And, you know, from a consumer point of view as well, people will listen to it and like the idea. They won't, you know, recoil in disgust if, you know, the snare isn't EQ'd properly or anything like that, because their ears aren't trained to pick up on things like that. So, yeah, that's why I would always favour the creative decisions made over the technical decisions made when judging your music, and I think that creatively it's a really, really wicked piece of work. I'm going to give this 4 out of 5 zoos. GemNEye, this is so dope. I'm going to do some research and find the original because I want to listen to the two side by side. Whatever you've done here, awesome. I really, really like it. But I will message you privately. I'll get back to you once I've listened to the original because I want to kind of see how they stand side by side. But yeah, really, really impressed. Really, really impressed. So that was Headphone Silence, the GemNEye remix, 4 out of 5 zoos. Thank you so much for sending that in, dude. Finally, we're going to get into our third submission for this episode, and it comes from, I don't want to butcher this, but I'm having a hard time reading the letters consecutively. XYVIX. XYVIX. Yeah, that's the one. So we've got Midsummer Groove by XYVIX. Let's get into it. Oh, damn. I recognise that. Okay, I recognise that guitar lick from somewhere. Is it Chic? Don't know. I recognise it though.
Your love is like fire in my veins. You're all I desire. Can't explain just how you make me feel so young and alive.
Almost a bit of a Daft Punk vibe going on here. You know, you got the disco influence, the almost robotic kind of monotone voice.
Just how you make me feel so young. In my veins, you're all I desire. I can't explain just how you make me feel so young and alive.
Yeah, this is pretty cool. It's quite short as well, so I'm going to let this one run out. Damn, this is going to kill me. Where is that guitar lick from? Am I going to do the unthinkable and hit Shazam? Because I need to know where this is from. The vocal I haven't heard before. I don't know whether that's going to be like from a sample pack or a original, but it kind of... Anyway, we'll let this one run out and then we'll get into it. Wicked. XYVIX. Thank you so much for sending that in. That was titled Midsummer Love. Midsummer Groove, sorry. So, I really like it. I'm now playing mental gymnastics with myself because I'm trying to figure out where I've heard that guitar lick from. I'm sure it's Chic. But anyway, the fact that you've used that is pretty cool. I like the fact that it kind of gives a Daft Punk vibe, an early Daft Punk vibe. With the kind of like, yeah, the funky influence with the guitar and stuff like that, disco grooves, this, that, and the other. The vocal, I'm not 1,000% certain it fits this. I've got to be honest. I'm not 1,000% certain that it works. I think there's a version of this track where it does, but I don't think this is it. I don't want that to be taken the wrong way because the vocal, I'd be interested to know, is it an original vocal or is it from a sample pack? If it's from a sample pack, switch it up. I think get a new vocal in. But if it's an original, it's a good idea to build on. But I don't think the actual performance of the vocal itself is doing it justice at the moment. So it might be worth going back, re-recording or redirecting whoever you've got to do that vocal. But anyway, yeah, I thought it was pretty cool. It does what it says on the tin. It's, you know, a proper summery kind of groovy tune. And yeah, I enjoyed listening to it. There wasn't really enough of it, though. That's the thing. There wasn't enough of it for me to really get, you know, critical about. The arrangement was fine. You know, it had a clear beginning, middle, and end. I just want to... I'd be interested to know who this is for. So, is this something that you intend people to... Do you want DJs to play this in clubs? Is this just a production exercise? Because I've seen that it's out. You've released the track. You released it in February, so that's cool. Congrats on the release. I'd love to know what the kind of purpose behind the release is. There doesn't necessarily have to be one, but if there is one, I'd love to know. You know, do you want DJs to play this out? Is this just a production exercise? Or is this more kind of like a radio friendly tune that you want people to kind of get behind and listen to and stream and stuff like that? Whatever it is, dude, please let me know. Because, yeah, I think that this is a really interesting concept. I just don't think it's being executed the best it can possibly be right now. Drums sound a little bit flat. Again, I feel like that's sampled as well, but is it all sampled from the same tune? I don't know. I don't know. I can guarantee this is probably a really well-known track, and everyone that's listening to this is going to be like, it's this." But off the top of my head, I just don't know. I'm gonna find out where that guitar lick's from at the very least, and then I'll be able to tell if those drums were taken from that as well. Yeah, because it kind of lacks oomph at the moment. It lacks a bit of oomph. But I liked it. I liked it at the same time. You know, it doesn't always have to be heavy and impactful. It can just be, you know, delicate and lovely sometimes. I don't know if that's done you any favors, mate. But similar to AK Lion, I think this is half a good idea. So again, I'm going to give it 2.5 out of 5 zoos, just because I don't think the execution of the idea is the best it could possibly be just yet. But I think with a bit of work, I think it could get to a really, really polished final product. But at the moment, I don't think it's quite there. So 2.5 out of 5 zoos. So again, a really good foundation to build on. It just needs that final, you know, final bit of TLC, that final piece of the puzzle. But honestly, really, really impressed. I am going to go and find out what that guitar lick is from now, because it's really, really doing my head in. So XYVIX Midsummer Groove, 2.5 out of 5 zoos. Thank you to everyone who submitted music. Again, you know, we're covering 3 per episode at the moment, and we do have a bit of a backlog. But if you're a producer and you're listening and you want to hear some feedback from a, you know, industry professional, please send it across to me either via Instagram at official_Zurra, or however you can get hold of me. You know, I've had some tunes be sent to me through WhatsApp, some on Discord, some on Facebook. God knows how people found me on Facebook. But yeah. Ideally, please send it to me via Instagram at official_Zurra. But if you can get it to me any other way, that's fine as well. Just make it very clear that it's for Zeus Reviews, and then, yeah, I'll take a listen. But yeah, please keep sending them through, guys. Please keep sending them through. So, next, we're going to get into my review of The Man Without Fear. Daredevil. Damn. You know, the new season's come out, right? Born Again on Disney+. And my fiance, I really want her to experience like this show, because I love it so much, right? I love the show beyond words. It's violent, it's great. I don't know, until you watch it, you don't realize how good it is. And so I thought, okay, let's rewatch the first season. She hasn't seen the first season. You know, she's not going to understand what's going on in Born Again. So let's get into it. Rewatch season 1. This is easily in my top 3 favorite shows of all time. I think it's perfect from start to finish. I don't think that we'll ever get anyone play anywhere near as good a Daredevil as Charlie Cox does in this show. And I think that, spoiler alert for those who haven't seen it. By the way, this show's been out for over a decade. So if you haven't seen it by now, like, I can't help you. I really can't help you. The new season's come out. Born Again is on Disney Plus now. So this is a great opportunity to go and watch it if you haven't already. I completely forgot how violent it is. I completely forgot how he's not even Daredevil for 90% of the show. And that's what makes the show so good. So he doesn't get like the proper Daredevil costume until the last episode, right? And there's like a whole thing leading up to it. You know, he keeps getting literally the shit kicked out of him. He's getting stabbed and like just basically knocking on death's door every episode. Every time he goes out to fight crime, he is just laying in a pool of blood. And, you know, he's got people around him who are just like, what are you doing? Like, so eventually when he gets the suit, he has a bit of extra protection and stuff like that. Now he feels a bit more like a superhero. Before he felt like a vigilante who was going out and like, you know, just getting stabbed up, basically. But for those who don't know about Daredevil's backstory, Daredevil is Matt Murdock. Matt Murdock, as a child, got into an accident saving someone. So he was pushing someone out of the road because there was a car coming. In turn, that car creates a crash where all these radioactive chemicals get into his eyes, blinds him, but in turn improves all of his other senses to the point where he can technically still see, but it's more like echolocation, more kind of like a radar sense. Depending on what show you watch, what movie you watch, or what comic you read, they depict it in different ways. But I've always liked the idea that it's kind of like echolocation. So he's seeing things based on where sound is bouncing in the room. In this show, they kind of describe that he sees it as like a world on fire, which is, I don't know, I'm not 100% sure on that version, but it's still really cool. Like, you know, he's blind and he kicks ass. So yeah, there's a whole bunch of other things to do with his backstory as well, which I really, really love. You know, it's weird because he's Catholic, but he dresses up as the devil and beats the shit out of people, so it's not a very Catholic thing to do. But that's my interpretation of that, has always been like he's only kind of taking it upon himself to dress up as the devil and beat the shit out of people to get the devil out of himself, kind of thing, because he wants to be a good Catholic boy. You know, whatever your interpretation of that is, but but yeah, I think this is one of the more interesting Marvel characters. You know, he doesn't really have like any kind of superhero abilities other than like his radar sense, which is just being able to hear really well, and being able to see because of that. He's a gymnast, ninja, you know, trained by Stick, who you meet in in season 1 as well. It's nice to see their backstory and the influence that he had on Matt Murdock as a character. And you get to see a little bit of background on Matt and his dad as well. His dad was a professional boxer. You know, kind of a little bit of a has-been, you know, he's kind of in the mob's pocket, like, you know, they're like, oh, we're going to bet on you to go down in the 5th round, that kind of thing. So, you know, he's a boxer that's a bit past his prime and he's taking falls, you know, he's getting paid really well to lose on purpose and stuff like that. And Matt never really, as a child, doesn't understand the concept of that at all, but because he can hear better, he overhears a conversation he's having with a couple of gangsters about going down in the 5th. Which implies he's going to lose on purpose. Now, Matt takes it upon himself to be like, oh no, like, you know, that's not what we do. Murdochs, we always get up, blah, blah, blah. And that was one of the teachings that his father gave him. So before his father goes out for his final fight, which is, you know, a big championship fight, blah, 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 he actually goes out and he beats the guy. And it's like you know, it's a world champion. So it proves that this guy's not really a has-been. He's always portrayed a has-been because he's been paid to lose. And now he goes out and he fights because he wants to do his son proud one last time. Gets killed. Matt's then, you know, an orphan being looked after by a guy called Stick, who's now the new male role model in his life, who is not a great person, but he helps him learn how to kind of hone in on these weird new abilities that he's trying to navigate the world with, being able to hear everything, being able to smell, you know, kind of feeling changes in air pressure and stuff, and it all helps him be able to quote unquote see as Daredevil. Now, I won't get into too many specifics about the story. Like, I'll give you a spoiler warning every now and then, but like, the main bad guy of the whole thing, Kingpin, played by Vincent D'Onofrio, is the best Marvel villain in anything ever. Like, and I'll die on that hill because Thanos was amazing, Loki was amazing. We've had a lot of good Marvel villains, but Vincent D'Onofrio as the Kingpin is like the definitive bad guy. He's not an alien from outer space. He doesn't have crazy powers. He's just a very rich criminal mastermind who has everyone in his pocket. He can buy off anyone, the media, the police. And I think that's such a dangerous dude for someone like Daredevil to deal with, considering Daredevil during the day is a lawyer. So, you know, he's trying to go through the legal system, but when the legal system fails, that's where Daredevil comes into play and he deals his own kind of justice on the streets. Honestly, I can't speak highly enough of this show. It's so, so good. And I can't wait to get stuck into Born Again, but I did promise the fiance we're going to rewatch season 1, 2, and 3. So, rewatch season 1, loved it, forgot how good it was. For me, it gets a 5 out of 5 zoos. Like I said, it's easily in my top 3 favourite shows of all time. It's just too good. It's just too good. And season 1, he is not even Daredevil for like 99% of the show. it's a courtroom drama for some of it. You know, it's just a normal drama for a lot of it as well. Like, there's not much super heroics involved until like the final few episodes. You know, it's just a guy who's just going out beating the crap out of people, but you know, getting you know, he's getting his ass handed to him as well. So, you know, he feels very vulnerable. And, you know, if he felt like a superhero that could take on anyone, this show wouldn't be anywhere near as good. The vulnerability is what really helps you buy into him as a character and the world that these characters live in as well. You know, it's an absolute shithole in New York called Hell's Kitchen. And it makes Kingpin even more dangerous as a bad guy as well. So, 5 out of 5 zoos. It's going to be very rare that I hand out 5 out of 5 zoos for anything, but this show is unbelievable. Can't wait to get stuck into Born Again. When I do get round to watching that, I will review that as well. But if you haven't seen Daredevil already, do yourself a favour, check it out. It's absolutely unbelievable. Now, we've done some reviewing. I'm going to talk about some tour dates, and then we're going to get into the listener topics, because tour dates, I mean, everyone wants to know where I'm playing, right? You know, that's the hot topic. That's what everyone wants to know. That's why you're listening to the show. We're only like 55 minutes in, and now I'm going to talk about tour dates. Well, there we go. So, where can you expect to see me play in 2025? Well, I'm just going to read off a few locations, not dates or anything like that, but a few places for you to start getting excited about seeing me. So, we've got Southampton, we've got Bath, so I'm going to be playing at Sub 13, Common Room in Bath, that's going to be wicked. Move in Exeter, Bomber in Exeter, Swan in Plymouth, Vaults in Cardiff, the Secret Vault in Nottingham, the Secret Garden in Nottingham as well. Going to be jumping on tour in Lanzarote and Ibiza as well. We're working out dates in Amsterdam and Prague too at the moment, which is really cool. Lunar Springs in Birmingham, Dare 2 in Bristol, Neo in Yeovil, many more yet to be confirmed, but that's to give you guys a little bit of an idea of where you can catch me this summer. Super excited to have the Lanzarote tour confirmed as well. Never been to Lanzarote, so that'll be really cool. I'm going to be out there for 7 days. And then Ibiza as well. There's more information to come for that. But I'll be definitely playing at Plastic and a couple of other venues as well. So that'll be in May, I believe. And then Lanzarote will be in July. Super excited. But there you go. There's just something to start thinking about anyway. You know, are any of those cities near you? If so, come and have a little play. We're going to have some fun for sure. And it's going to be a summer to remember, no doubt about it. Finally. You've been very patient. You know, it's almost coming up to the hour, but we're going to cover the listener topics now before we wrap up the show. So let's have a little look and see what we have got lined up. Okay, cool. So again, if you want to make sure that your topic is absolutely guaranteed to get discussed on the show, join the Zoo Crew. I'll be posting the channel on my Instagram story every single day. So just click the button that says join channel and get involved in the fun. The first one comes from Dean Field. Thank you very much for sending it in, Dean. Discuss your process from mix down to master. Okay, cool. There's not much to go through, mate, honestly. I'm not a technical producer at all. In fact, my technical abilities as a producer are pretty poor. I think that my strengths in production definitely lie in the ideas and the workflow. I don't really know what I'm doing, mate, I'll be honest. Like, I don't really know what I'm doing with mix downs. I just know what works for the music that I make. If I was given someone else's track to mix down, I wouldn't have a clue how to make it sound good. I just know what works for me. So, I mean, I'll discuss it anyway, because I always have people in the studio with me see what I'm doing, and they're like, what the hell are you doing? Why are you doing it that way? And I don't have a proper justification for it. It's just that's the way I'm used to. That is the way I find it works for me. But yeah, not always the best. Especially when you got other industry professionals in there and they're like, what is this guy doing? But anyway, so mix down wise, I kind of mix as I go. So I know a lot of people like to wait until the end, till they've got everything in the arrangement, and then they start mixing things down. I mix as I go just because, like, I don't like hearing things overwhelm the mix as I'm putting things together. So a lot of people start with their channels at like -10 or something, and then start kind of increasing and decreasing the levels. I have everything at 0, which is bad because everything comes through super hot. You look at like the master and everything's coming through super hot. Now I don't know why I do that. I've just always done it. So I then work my way down from there. I never increase, I always decrease. It's the same with EQing. I always detract rather than boost. I learnt that from my uni lecturer, Professor Stretch. He said as soon as you get into reductive EQing, you'll never want to boost anything ever again. There's more value in taking things away than adding things. And I've always kind of like lived by those words. It kind of reverberates in my brain, so I've always kind of like taken it as scripture really. But yeah, I always start with everything at zero and then work my way down after. Mix as I go along. Mastering, I never touch. I never master anything myself. I usually send it to someone else because I'm so used to hearing the track a certain way that my ears are now tainted. I won't be able to do a good job of mastering it because I've listened to it throughout the whole process. I've heard many different versions of the track, and I couldn't do an honest job if I gave it a go myself. So I always hand it over to a mastering engineer that knows what they're doing, and they can take it from there. So, like I said, Dean, there's not much to it. I mean, I do a pretty poor job on the technical side of things. Mix down, I yeah, I would not say that I'm good at mix downs at all. I just know what works for my music. And mastering, I don't bother. I send it to someone else. So I hope that satisfied your your question there. But yeah, really not much to discuss. Listen to topic number 2. So we've got different types of file formats versus different quality. Is there a noticeable difference from I Am Mr. P? Hello, Lee. Thank you very much for sending that in, mate. So I think if anyone tells you that they can tell the difference between an MP3 and a WAV, they're bullshitting. I've never noticed the difference. Now there is a difference, but it's so microscopic that like to the human ear we can't tell. Of course we can't tell. So when you're buying WAVs on on Beatport, you're spending an extra like 60-70p on something that no one can hear the difference of. Like, so for me, that it blows my mind that people do that, but it is what it is. Obviously, you got a lot of different file formats as well. Like you got AAC, which I think is Apple's one. That's a little bit compressed, so I think that you could probably hear a difference between that and a 320 MP3. Then you've got things like FLAC. I think FLAC is supposed to be like the super high fidelity format. Again, I can't really tell the difference between that WAV MP3. And then you've got AIF, you've got Opus, you've got so many different file formats, and they all come with their own like different, bit rate and stuff like that. But I'm just trying to think. Like, I don't think that you can actually tell. Like, I don't think that the average person can listen to an MP3 and an AAC and hear the difference. I think to the trained ear, you could probably hear a bit of compression, but honestly, like, there's such microscopic differences that, 99.9% of the world won't be able to tell the difference between, an MP3 and AAC, a WAV, a FLAC, an AIF, an Opus, and whatever else, So yeah, I don't think that there's much. Obviously, WAV is kind of like the industry standard in terms of like bouncing things out and, providing that to distribution services and stuff. MP3 obviously is fantastic as well. AAC works on the Apple platforms. That's their own file format. Anything else, like I don't really understand why it exists, to be honest, because it's not as commonly used as those three. So yeah, to kind of wrap it up, not huge difference, not entirely noticeable unless you're like a super audiophile and you know exactly what each file format sounds like. But yeah, not much difference at all. So thank you for sending that in, dude. I really appreciate that. That was from I Am Mr. P, aka Lee. Finally, here's a good one. Here's a good topic. First of all, by the way, this is a bit passive aggressive as well. So this is from James F777. Why are there so many bad singers nowadays? Feels like everyone is overusing auto-tune. I think that's more of a statement than a question, mate. But auto-tune. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, every single track that you listen to nowadays will have an element of auto-tune on it. It's just the nature of the industry, it's technology, it's there to be used. Now, it will be used more discreetly in like, Adele songs, for example. You're not going to hear her sounding like T-Pain, that's for sure. So like, actually, that's a really good thing to... So two different ends of the spectrum, Adele and T-Pain. T-Pain is obviously using it as a very obvious creative choice, right? He doesn't need it to sing. Let's make that 100% clear. T-Pain does not need auto-tune. He's an incredible singer. incredible singer. I watched a couple of videos of him live without auto-tune, and my god, dude's got pipes. And I shouldn't have expected anything less, because I understand how auto-tune works, and you need to be a good vocal performer for it to sound good anyway. Adele will also have some level of pitch correction or auto-tune in her recordings, but it'll be very, very discreet. In fact, I've got a good idea. What I'm going to do is I'm going to switch auto-tune onto the channel that I'm currently recording through, so that you can hear how it works and we can kind of discuss the different versions of pitch correction, auto-tune, and stuff like that. So bear with me 2 seconds. I'm going to switch this on right now. Now, you probably can't hear much difference in my voice right now, because the response time on the pitch correction / auto-tune, whatever you want to call it, they're basically the same thing. Auto-tune is actually the name of a plugin, not the effect. It's all pitch correction. But you probably can't hear much of a difference in my voice right now, but it is switched on. But if I turn the response time down, at the moment we've got it on 122 milliseconds. If I bring it down to 0, you'll be able to hear a noticeable change in my voice. So now, if I'm a little bit more animated in the way that I talk, you might hear some kind of robotic kind of effect going on, and that's basically what auto-tune is. So we have it at the moment in a chromatic scale, so it's not fixed to a key, or it's not fixed to a root note, sorry. But if I put it on, like, let's say A, for example, and then I change it to the major scale, in fact, minor scale, because that's going to sound horrible. So now every time I talk, it's going to try and bring my voice to the nearest possible key in an A minor scale. And if it doesn't fit that scale, it's going to really just try its hardest to boost my voice to get to a workable note. So if we change it from minor to major, and now it's in major, so it'll be hitting slightly different notes. If I change the root note to F, again, you're going to hear it's very dramatic, it's kind of erratic, going all over the place. If I animate my voice a little bit more, you might be able to hear it a bit better. But yeah, in fact, this might be quite jarring for you as the listener, so I'm going to switch it off. But that was just an idea, just so you could hear how that works. Okay, cool. So you guys can start taking me seriously again now. So yeah, I mean, to put it simply, there's not much tinkering required with pitch correction / auto-tune to make people sound good. The vocal performance still has to be good for the auto-tune to do the right things, for it to respond in the right way. Of course, you can set it into a certain scale and a certain key and a root note and stuff like that, but the vocal performance has to be semi-good for the auto-tune to respond in the way that you want it to. Now, there are other things that you can do, like there's a way to kind of move the vocal performance up and down a little bit, so you can like flex the pitch and stuff like that. But that kind of comes with its own challenges. That creates a lot of like artifacts in the audio recording and stuff. So it's not as clean as you hear in like the charts and stuff, where they're using auto-tune as a creative option. You start to hear like a loss in quality that way, and like pop music just won't tolerate that. So at the highest standard, absolutely. Like people like Charlie XCX, for example, right? She's using it artistically. She's not using it because she can't sing. She can sing. She's an incredible singer, incredible vocal performer as well. Like not just singing, like, tunes like Guess, for example. She's not really doing much singing in that tune. She's talking tastefully with auto-tune as an effect. I'm trying to think of the earliest tune that used auto-tune. I think it was Believe by Cher. At least the way that it's used now, right? So obviously T-Pain took it and ran with it. That was his whole gimmick for a while. Lil Wayne, Drake, they all started grabbing onto it. Chris Brown. And it became this super popular thing. There was even a tune by B.O.B. called Auto-Tune, where he's basically taken the mick out of everyone using auto-tune. So it kind of became a meme, but let's not take anything away from the people who are using it. It's either being used creatively, so it's a creative decision to have it as an effect for like these trap rappers and stuff like that, like Fetty Wap or whoever is out there that probably can't sing without it, but they still have to put a good enough vocal performance in for it to respond in the way that it does. Travis Scott, another great example, a great vocal performer, just does it because he thinks it sounds good. So yeah, I wouldn't say that your comments are fair necessarily, like why there's so many bad singers nowadays. I think that it's just people are people are changing the way that they perform vocally. And, if that requires a little boost here and there with auto-tune or pitch correction, whatever you want to call it, to make it sound, a little bit different, a little bit more robotic, then that's just a creative decision. It doesn't mean that they're bad. They actually have to put in a good performance for it to work anyway. But I'm so glad you sent that in because it gave me an opportunity to switch on the auto-tune. So, to wrap up the podcast, I'm going to do the final goodbyes and the final review with auto-tune switched on again. So, brace yourself. Here we go. So, let's recap everything we went through in today's show. So we started with a little bit of an update on my latest single, Need to Know, which is out at midnight if you're listening to it live. If you're listening back to it after Thursday the 20th, then it's already out. Go grab yourself a copy of Need to Know. It's out right now on Vivify Records, and I think you're going to absolutely love that one. Next, I discussed my time in the Kiss Chosen One competition 2024. I gave that 4 out of 5 zoos. I thought it was a wicked experience. Next, we got into the music reviews. We had AK Lion with The Underground. That got 2.5 out of 5 zoos. Then we had Headphone Silence, the GemNEye remix. I gave that 4 out of 5 zoos. Really good work by GemNEye there. And then Xyvix with Midsummer Groove. Again, another 2.5 out of 5 zoos. Thank you to everyone who submitted music. Really do appreciate it. We then started discussing Daredevil, one of my favourite shows of all time. I gave it 5 out of 5 zoos. 5 out of 5 zoos. So there we go. Probably one of the best shows I've ever seen. If you haven't seen it, go and do yourself a favour. Check it out. You will not regret it. If you don't like it, we can't be friends. Simple as that. And then I told you about some of my upcoming tour dates as well. I won't do a recap on that, but there will be a little graphic popping up on my socials soon so you can see where I'm playing and when. And then finally, we got into the listener topics, which was from Dean Field, I Am Mr. Pete, and James F777. And for some reason, that ended with me talking with auto-tune switched on. So there we go. Thank you so much for tuning in as always. I really do appreciate it. You've earned a break. You've listened to me ramble on for the past hour and a bit. Go and have a sit down. Get the kettle on. Do whatever you need to do to decompress. Because, I'm just rambling on because I know the auto-tune's still on. But as soon as I turn it off, my life will go back to being grey again. So there we go. I'll catch you at the same time in a couple of weeks. Thank you very much for tuning in. This has been Zoo's Reviews. See you next time.